Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Joffy Noodle Legs here today. Today I've got another Noodle film review today from the Universal Monsters films. Today I'm looking at H.G. Wells's Invisible Man. So I'm just holding up the card because obviously the box doesn't really, so you can see what I'm actually going to be reviewing. So I'm looking at this film today. It's filmed in 1933. I'll give you a little synopsis of the film. The film starts off with the Invisible Man, played by Claude Rains, out in a snowstorm. So I gather it's based in England. He arrives at the pub. Um, the pub's sort of like quite lively, full of like the locals are all having a good time, and then the Invisible Man arrives. And when he arrives, he's quite abrupt. He's not beating around the bush or anything. He's actually quite abrupt and quite a little bit rude as well. Like, I want this for him, I want this for him. Eventually, um, the landlord and the landlady find accommodation for him.
It's the coldest winter we've had down here for years. They've had all the sheep and the cows in for a fortnight now. Poor things. They can't get a blade of green grass. Yes, I did, but you can't be getting them as well.
Now he's got accommodation. He's asked for something to eat, and he's just sort of like making himself comfortable in the room. The landlady brings up, she's very irritating and annoying. The landlady brings up some dinner for him, but then goes back and remembers that she's forgotten something like the mustard, I think it was, and she takes it back to his room, and we get sort of like the first glimpse of like the Invisible Man.
I told you not to disturb me.
So after that, we then cut back to a scientist in his laboratory, and I believe this is where the Invisible Man, I think his name's Jack. I think this is who he works for before, and he's been doing some experiments and stuff, and he's found this formula that makes him invisible. Anyway, he's gone on a walkabout and disappeared. So it sort of cuts to the laboratory.
I wish you'd leave me alone, Flora, when I'm working.
I can't bear it. We've got to do something.
Do something? What about?
About Jack.
Oh, he'll come back. Don't you worry.
Oh, Father, please put that horrid thing down and listen. It's nearly a month now, without a word.
But the note he left was quite clear. He said we might not hear for a while. It's a good thing to go away when you're finishing a difficult experiment.
What kind of experiment is it, Father?
Oh, something of his own.
I had a terrible feeling last night. I felt he was in desperate trouble.
And there we find the love interest, if you like, Jack's sort of love interest with another sort of like one of the scientists that are working in the actual laboratory with them, and they're having a discussion about him. And obviously the other guy is trying to make some sort of advances on her, but she's only interested in Jack.
He kept a lot of stuff locked in a big cupboard in his laboratory. He never opened that cupboard until he'd barred the door and drawn them blinds. Straightforward scientists have no need for barred doors and drawn blinds. He cares nothing for you, Flora. He'll never care about anything but test tubes and chemicals. How can he go away like this without a word? Flora, dear, please, darling, let me tell you how I feel.
We then cut back to the pub because stuff's been happening there. The Invisible Man's been there about a week now, and he hasn't paid any rent or anything like that and stuff. And I think the landlady was bringing some food up, and he sort of like shut the door abruptly on her, and she sort of screamed. She screams at everything, and so the landlord goes up and asks them to leave.
From death that I should be left alone. You don't understand. I understand all right. You don't pay. And what's more, you're driving folks away from our house. Mr. Hall, I've had a serious accident. It's disfigured me. Affected my eyes. I don't mean that. I mean the way you carry on. Throwing things about on the carpets and swearing. It's no good, mister. You've got to go. I implore you to let me stay. I beg of you. The wife says if you don't go, she is. So it's got to be you.
So he refuses to leave, and he actually ends up knocking out the landlord, which is just a little bit over the top. But so then the landlord goes falling down the stairs, and all the locals see it. So they go and get the police officer.
He's upstairs in the sitting room.
So then the police officer goes into the into the pub and goes up to actually challenge him to try and get him to leave. This is where it's sort of like a little bit of a comedy sort of aspect sort of comes into it. There's a little bit of comedy. So anyway, he approaches the Invisible Man and asks him to leave.
Yeah, what's all this?
Keep back there.
Keep back, me? You know who you're talking to?
I give you a last chance to leave me alone.
Give me a last chance. You've committed assault, that's what you've done, and you can come along to the station with me. Come along now, come quietly, unless you want me to put the handcuffs on.
Stop where you are. You don't know what you're doing.
I know what I'm doing, all right. Come on.
Then all of it. Lock him up. All right, you fools. You brought it on yourselves.
I do find the police officer quite funny, and that anyway, he doesn't want to leave, so he's like he says there, you know, you brought it upon yourselves. So then what happens then? He's chased him out the room a bit, and while they're out the room, he takes off all of his clothes and he's invisible, and then that's when he's sort of like there's a little sort of like chase going on around the room, which is quite funny.
They've asked for it, the country bumpkins. This will give them a bit of a shock. Something to write home about. A nice bedtime story for the kids, too, if they want it. Put the handcuffs on.
How can I handcuff a blooming shirt?
Quick, get out of him!
Anyway, after he's tormented everyone, he eventually leaves the town, and he goes back to the other scientist's house, the one that also showing the interest in the girl, the other guy, and he turns up at his house, and he then sort of like asks the other guy to become his partner.
Now, Ken. Now then, we can talk as man to man.
But he's asking him to be his partner, but his intention is really bad because he wants to murder people, he wants to kill people, and then he wants to create like a big train crash and do all these sorts of things, and he wants the other guy to help him, obviously be his sort of like physical part. And so obviously the other guy's a bit scared, so he sort of follows along at the moment. And first of all, they go back to the pub because he's left his book there.
Where's that rug? I'm frozen. Not enough to freeze the icicles off an Eskimo. We'll stop in a lane 100 yards from the inn. I'll go in and give you the books through the window. They'll have a guard. A guard? What can a guard do, you fool? I must have those books kept. I'll work in your laboratory till I find the antidote.
So they drive to the pub, and then the police are there, sort of like interviewing everyone in the town about the invisible man to see what he's done wrong and stuff. Because the main police officer in charge, the constable, doesn't believe it's happened. So the invisible man, once he's got his books out of the house, he then sort of then creates havoc and trouble for the police, and then he ends up killing that policeman.
He's here! The invisible man!
So he ends up killing that policeman and going out. And again, the guy, the other scientist, is terrified, pretty much, to not do what he wants, because he knows once he's taken his clothes off, he can't even see if he's in the same room or anything. So he's in a right sort of predicament, and he's in a position where he's like, well, what do I do? Anyway, back at the pub, the police now have got like a special sort of like the CID and sort of like all the sort of detectives there, sort of mastering a sort of plan to try and catch the invisible man.
Hogan, you take all the villagers out to the river. Right, sir. Now we shall comb the country for 20 miles round. We've got a terrible responsibility. He's mad and he's invisible. He may be standing beside us now, but he's human, and we shall get him.
So while that's going on, we cut back to the house, and the other scientist is sort of like contacting people from the outside, like to say, look, this guy's he's here at my house. He contacts the police, and he contacts the other scientist and the love interest to come round and stuff like this. And then the police turn up, and the invisible man knows that he's called them, and he's made him a threat. You know, by 10 p.m. tonight, I'm going to kill you, sort of thing, blah, blah. And that's all I'm going to tell you, the synopsis, okay? Because then it sort of kicks off into like other events happening. And does the invisible man create havoc like he says? Does he kill all these people that he says he's going to do, and sort of like crash trains and things like that? Does he do that? You need to watch it and find out. So I'm not going to spoil that book for you. So what did I think of the film? I thought the film was really cool. Considering when it was made in 1933, it had a real sort of psychological mystery over it. And it didn't really hold back. I said it started with the Invisible Man straight away. And so you pretty much see him straight away. And he looks very steampunk in it. But he plays the part quite well, and I actually really enjoyed the story, and I wanted to see what happened. I do love these Universal films. I think they're fantastic, but this one was particularly good fun, and I enjoyed it. It had some good comedy moments, and especially around the town and the police officer and the locals. They're quite funny. But then it has like a serious element to it, like what if that really happened? This guy could do absolutely anything, and nobody would see or know anything about it. So it's quite scary when you look at it from that point of view. So that's what I think about it. Now, what are the pluses of this? The transfer is fantastic. It is black and white, obviously. It's made 1933, but it looks really, really nice on the Blu-ray. It's a really, really cool edition. It's acted really well. The story moves a quick pace. This is a short film anyway. It runs for about an hour and 10 minutes. Most of these Universal films didn't run for very long. And so trying to fit a lot of the story in that sort of runtime, it does move at quite a fast pace, but that's quite good. And that's really, really cool. And I really like the photography in it, and I thought the imagery was really, really cool. Negatives. I think yeah, the pacing is a little bit fast, a little bit rushed, and it's sort of only filmed in like um, two real places really, like the pub and the other scientist's house. There's not a lot of other sort of environments. So it would have been good to have had other environments in there, which would have been cool and made it even a more richer. But like I said, if they've only probably got an hour and 10 time that they're allowed to run it through, there's only so much they can do for it. So I'm going to score this a good watch, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Really good film, really cool, really enjoyed it. I do love my Universal films, I really do. We're coming up to October, and I'm planning on doing some sort of Universal specials sort of videos over some of the classic movies and do some reviews and stuff like that. Just because it's that time of year, we're getting towards Halloween, and I don't want to be too obvious and go down the sort of Halloween route and do the Halloween films. I want to have a look at these classics, and because they're still sort of scary movies, so I'm going to have a little look at some of these Universal films. I might do a few binge watches where I'll have like a triple bill of films which I'll watch, and I'll give you like a synopsis and a review of all sort of three. And there'll be individual sort of films. I want to do some sort of things like that throughout the next month anyway. Anyway, guys, that's my review of The Invisible Man, 1933 Universal Pictures. Really good film. Really good film. I do love these films. I think they're sort of like not got forgotten, but they don't get the recognition they deserve. I mean, because everybody, yes, we all love the Hammer films, but these were before the Hammer films, and these sort of created that sort of stepping stone up. And Hammer films just took the same stepping stone, but just made it that little bit more risque. So these were like the horror films, that really um, kick-started the genre. Yes, you had some silent movies before it, um, just Cabinet de Dr. Jar and uh, Nosferatu and Faust and Gollum and stuff like that. We had all these um, old black and white silent movies before these, but these were the ones that really sort of kicked off the horror sort of like genre in my opinion. So this is why I'm going to give them a bit of love throughout of October. Anyway, guys, if you get a chance, go and check out some more channels for me. Go and check out Horror Hands, check out the Horror Geek, Man v Film, Horror in Todge, Sarah of Horror, Pizzoel, and RS Designs, Russell's channel. Until next time, please look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I see you all soon.